Hey everybody! Hope you're all having a good Sunday so far. Update our numbers here because we are on chapter 37 today, which is very exciting because it means that we are less than 10 chapters from the end of this book. Oh, very angry puppy back there. You're mad, aren't you? Yes. Yes, you're mad, Mimi. Oh. No, go back to your chair. Back to your chair. Go on, go. Go back. Back to your chair. And come sit. She just wants to say hi so bad. Yes. I just got done watching The Tinder Swindler. Finally got to that, and there are so many times that the phone rings in that soundtrack. She was so upset. She hates when my phone rings. She just always thinks that it's like somebody calling for me and I'll be paying attention to something other than her. How dare I? So yeah, I mean, it's just about time to start, but I do want to like make sure that people have time to get in here because I think it did take me a couple of minutes to post to let everybody know I was live, so we can just chill for a bit. Just give people a chance to roll in. If you're in chat, let me know who's here, because I think I mentioned last night, like I just do not trust my viewer count like at all. Because like even just now, like I've got stream open in a private tab beside me here so that I can see it, and it's not even showing like me as a viewer. So. Still got my makeup box open from last night. If you weren't here, you missed it. We did another Saturday slumber party stream, which is becoming my regular, and it's a really cool, chill time. We added the movie wheel for the first time. We watched The Phantom Planet, which was a really bad, like 50s sci-fi movie that was so fun. And I think I'm gonna pull another sound alert. Hey, honey, how you doing? But I think I'm gonna pull a sound alert from that movie because, what is it? The old guy says after he like kills the other aliens, he's like, "Oh, and I am filled with regret." But he said it in a way that is just like so happy. I love that. So I might pull it for you. Speaking of sound alerts, if you want to play a sound alert at any time during the reading, or you know, even right now if you want, there's a panel for that. If you go scroll down on the channel down to where my like about panels are, and it should be like the first one on the left. So you've got all your different sound alerts there. They are free. They don't cost anything. Not only because I wouldn't charge anyway, but I also can't figure out my settings enough to bother. So, but yeah, so you can play whatever you like. And yeah, I hope that it accents the story well for you. No problem, Kate-Risha. I'm glad you're popping in either way. Hi, and I hope your partner's doing well. Or as well as can be expected. Absolutely. Yeah, VOD is always there for you. So yeah, so we know where Kate-Risha's at. We know what's going on. I'm not sure where some of our other regulars are today, but that's all good. I'm just reluctant to get started when I know they're not here. Yes, thank you, Kate-Risha. I know there was a trigger warning, but I am now forgetting what it was for. But oh, right, it was for somebody potentially being drugged without their consent, I believe. Yes. Okay, so there's that. So we'll have to be conscious of that. For sure, for everybody. But otherwise, we'll see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get started. If people are a little late, that's all good. Oh, all good, Pippa. No problem. I was just about to say, like, oh, you know, I'm still missing some people I know are usually here. Oh well. That's all good. Yeah, we're just gonna get started. I'm having a lazy Sunday too. Yeah, so we're on chapter 37. Just like yesterday, if the music is louder than I am, let me know, because I'm still playing with this new setup situation. So you'll have to let me know, because I don't know. I can only guess. No one, not even Lucian, came to fix my arm in the days following my victory. The pain overwhelmed me to the point of screaming whenever I prodded the embedded bit of bone, and I had no other option but to sit there, letting the wound gnaw on my strength, trying my best not to think about the constant throbbing that shot sparks of poisoned lightning through me. Thanks, Pippa. Okay, I'll turn it down a smidge. That's probably better. That's probably better, from my guessing. Okay. So, and then just to, like, remind everybody, so she's talking about the injury she got when she fought the worm in the last reading. So, now I thought when she said at the end of the last chapter that she could see bone, that, like, her arm had been broken and, like, it had done that thing where, like, the bone sticks out. Ugh. But it sounds like maybe she's got, like, some bone that was from the thing, like, embedded in her versus her bone coming out. So that's a different kind of injury. So as long as it's not broken, I think that's better. But it sucks nobody's coming to help. Shots of poison lightning shot through me. So like, is there a poison element to this as well that we need to be aware of? But worse than that was the growing panic. Panic that the wound hadn't stopped bleeding. I knew what it meant when blood continued to flow. I kept one eye on the wound, either out of hope that I'd find the blood clotting or the terror that I'd spy the first signs of infection. I couldn't eat the rotten food they gave me. The sight of it aroused such nausea that a corner of my cell now reeked of vomit. Oh. It didn't help that I was still covered in mud, and the dungeon was perpetually freezing. Yeah, girl, you got like a big old cut on your arm and you're literally covered in shit. So, good luck with that not getting infected. Good luck with that. Like, it's not her fault, but good luck with that. Yeah, it's not a good time. It's like probably, I can't think of anything I would rather avoid. Like, it's kind of like my worst nightmare, I think. It's terrible. Like, being covered in shit and having a grotesque injury. No, I don't want that. I was sitting against the far wall of my cell, savoring the coolness of the stone beneath my back. I'd awoken from a fitful sleep and found myself burning hot. A kind of fire that made everything a bit muddled. My injured arm dangled at my side as I gazed dully at the cell door. It seemed to sway, its lines rippling. This heat in my face was some kind of small cold, not a fever from infection. I put a hand on my chest and dried mud crumbled into my lap. Each of my breaths was like swallowing broken glass. Not a fever, not a fever, not a fever. My eyelids were heavy, stinging. I couldn't go to sleep. I had to make sure the wound wasn't infected. I had to... The door actually did move then. No, not the door, but rather the darkness around it, which seemed to ripple. Real fear coiled in my stomach as a male figure formed out of that darkness, as if he'd slipped in from the cracks between the door and the wall. Hardly more than a shadow. Oh, I'm imagining this is probably the trigger warning part. Rassand was fully corporeal now, and his violet eyes glowed in the dim light. He slowly smiled from where he stood by the door. What a sorry state for Tamlin's champion. I still can't really do that well. He comes out quite feminine. Honestly, I can't make it male. Sorry. Go to hell, I snapped. But the words were little more than a wheeze. My head was light and heavy all at once. If I tried to stand, I would topple over. He stalked closer with that feline grace and dropped into an easy crouch before me. He sniffed, grimacing at the corner splattered with vomit. I tried to bring my feet into a position more inclined for scrambling away or kicking him in the face, but they were full of lead. Rassand cocked his head. His pale skin seemed to radiate alabaster light. I blinked away the haze, but couldn't even turn aside my face as his cold fingers grazed my brow. What would Tamlin say, he murmured, if he knew his beloved was rotting away down here, burning up with fever? Not that he can even come here, not when his every move is watched. I kept my arm hidden in the shadows. The last thing I needed them to know was how weak I was. Get away, they said, and my eyes stung as the words burned my throat. I had difficulty swallowing. I could tell that one's louder. Okay. He raised an eyebrow. I come here to offer you help, and you have the nerve to tell me to leave? Get away, I repeated. My eyes were so sore that it hurt to keep them open. You made me a lot of money, you know. I figured I would repay the favor. I leaned my head against the wall. Everything was spinning like a top, spinning like... I kept my nausea down. Let me see your arm, he said too quietly. I kept my arm in the shadows, if only because it was too heavy to lift. Let me see it. A growl ripped from him. Without waiting for my reaction, he grabbed my elbow and first forced my arm into the dim light of the cell. Ooh, yay. I bit my lip to keep from crying out. Bit it hard enough to draw blood as rivers of fire exploded inside me, as my head swam and all my senses narrowed down to the piece of bone sticking through my arm. They couldn't know how bad it was, because then they would use it against me. Zond examined the wound, a smile appearing on his sensuous lips. Sensuous lips. Blech. Oh, that's wonderfully gruesome. I swore at him and he chuckled. We can't even write the swear word? Come on. Such words from a lady. Get out! I wheezed. My frail voice was as terrifying as the wound. Don't you want me to heal your arm? His fingers tightened around my elbow. At what cost? I shot back, but kept my head against the stone, needing its damp strength. Ah, that. Living among fairies has taught you some of our ways. I focused on the feeling of my good hand on my knee, focused on the dry mud beneath my fingernails. I'll make a trade with you, he said casually, and gently set my arm down. As it met with the floor, I had to close my eyes to brace against the flow of that poisoned lightning. I'll heal your arm in exchange for you. Oh no, I don't like this. For 2 weeks every month, 2 weeks of my choosing, you'll live with me at the night court. Starting after this messy 3 trials business. Yeah, I don't like this. Ooh, this seems not good. Oh, hey, so I see you on, this is so weird. This is just like a purely, Streamlabs thing, but like I see you in the chat that's up on the window, but I don't see you in the chat that's on my manager board. That's wild. Oh, and I see Pippino is commenting here as well underneath, and I can't see her comments either. What's going on, Streamlabs? What's wrong with you? Let me talk to my friends. Ah, there we go, because it looks like, so you're on YouTube. Okay, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. And I was looking at the wrong window for that. That's okay, now I can see everybody. Look at me learning. Ah! Anyway, yeah, yeah, it's because you're on. Whatever's good for you, man. We're good. But hey, if you need any catching up, because I don't know where you're at in the story, you let me know. We'll try to. I always try to remind everybody what's going on anyway, because I always forget. But yeah, this is gonna be bad, and Tamlin's gonna be real mad. You're right, Pippino. This is rough. Okay. My eyes flew open. No! I'd already made one fool's bargain. Bargain? One bargain? Bargain. No. He braced his hands on his knees and leaned closer. Really? Yeah, dude. What the fuck? Everything was starting to dance. Get out, I breathed. You turned down my offer? And for what? I didn't reply, so he went on. You must be holding out for one of your friends. For Lucian, correct? After all, he healed you before, didn't he? Oh, don't look so innocent. The Ator and his cronies broke your nose, so unless you have some kind of magic you're not telling us about, I don't think human bones heal that quickly. His eyes sparkled, and he stood pacing a bit. The way I see things, Farah, you have two options. The first, and the smartest, would be to accept my offer. According to you. I spat at his feet, but he kept pacing, only giving me a disapproving look. The second option, and the one only a fool would take, would be for you to refuse my offer and place your life, and thus Tamlin's, in the hands of chance. He stopped pacing and stared hard at me. Though the world spun and danced in my vision, something primal inside me went still and cold beneath that gaze. Let's walk out of here. Perhaps Lucian will come to your aid within 5 minutes of my leaving. Perhaps he'll come in 5 days. Perhaps he won't come at all. Between you and me, he's been keeping a low profile after his rather embarrassing outburst at your trial. Amarantha's not exactly pleased with him. Tamlin even broke his delightful brooding to beg for him to be spared. Such a noble warrior, your High Lord. She listened, of course, but only after she made Tamlin bestow Lucian's punishment. 20 lashes. Getting that many lash extensions at once can't be fun. We know he meant whipping, we know. Mimi, stop! No, go lay down! Go lay down! You were up and then you were down. You were up and then you were down. I'm trying to read a book. Chihuahua! Chihuahua! Hey! Alright. We pause for a second anyway because dog. She's so rude. You're so rude. You're so rude. You're so rude. She doesn't care. She's over here just being rude and stinky. Okay, so Razan basically just said that Lucian got whipped by Tamlin because of what he said when she was fighting the worm in the shit tunnels. By the way, that wasn't a sandworm, that was a shitworm. So gross. I started shaking, sick all over again to think about what it had to have been like for my High Lord to be the one to punish his friend. Rasan shrugged, a beautiful, easy gesture. So it's really a question of how much you're willing to trust Lucian and how much you're willing to risk for it. Already you're wondering if that fever of yours is the first sign of infection. Perhaps they're unconnected, perhaps not. Maybe it's fine. Maybe that worm's mud isn't full of festering filth. And maybe Amarantha will send a healer. And by that time, you'll either be dead, or they'll find your arms so infected that you'll be lucky to keep anything above the elbow. My stomach tightened into a painful ball. I don't need to invade your thoughts to know these things. I already know what you've slowly been realizing. He again crouched in front of me. You're dying. My eyes stung, and I sucked my lips into my mouth. I was like really weird when I do that. How much are you willing to risk on the hope that another form of help will come? I stared at him, sending as much hate as I could into my gaze. He'd been the one who'd caused all this. He'd told Amarantha about Claire. He'd made Tamlin beg. Well, I bared my teeth. Go to hell. Swift as lightning, he lashed out, grabbing the shard of bone in my arm and twisting. Jesus Christ! Ah! So I need to say this then. So then if the bone is her bone, then shit. And like, oh my god, I think I would die. Die anyway, but like, oh my god! If it's not, that still fucking sucks, but if that's her bone, oh no, damn it. God. No! Ah! Body stuff, I think, is the worst for me. I'm like, oh! Like, I don't remember this story, like, from my own perspective, but when it gets told to me at family things, I freak out. I guess when I was like 2, like really little, my parents, and they still have these kitchen chairs. They have these metal chairs that have like, what's it called? Designs in the back of it, whatever, with like iron tubing or steel tubing or whatever. And the design has like a big circle right in the center of it. And I guess I was little and I tried to climb up on a chair to like get up to the counter because my dad had up against the counter so he could like reach something. And he looked away for 2 seconds. I got up on the chair, I stuck my arm through that little hole, and then something happened and I slipped. I think they said I was wearing like pajamas, like footy pajamas that had like slippy bottoms on them. And I slipped and I fell and my arm in the little hoop. And I fell off the chair and my arm was like broken like right in half, and I was down on the ground and I was knocked out. So it was a combo of a knockout and an arm snapped. And my dad thought I was dead. Which isn't actually funny. But like, I'm not dead, obviously, so. But like, I wore that cast for a long time. I do have some like vague memories of having the cast on, and they still have the cast. My grandparents have the cast. It's so tiny. It's like this big. It's so little. Because I was small anyway, but then I was like also a baby. So yeah. But I guess it was so bad that like the hospital was like asking all these questions about my parents, about like how it happened, and they felt like bad parents, and they were really worried they were going to get in all kinds of trouble. But it was just a genuine accident. So. But I would do something like that. Like that, I'm just like, that tracks. Yeah. Oh, you mean I did a stupid clumsy thing? Yeah, absolutely. 100% that was me. But anyway, Rasan just grabbed her bone and twisted it. Like, God damn it. Ooh. A scream shattered out of me, ravaging my aching throat. The world flashed black and white and red. I thrashed and writhed, but he kept his grip, twisting the bone a final time before releasing my arm. Panting, half sobbing as the pain reverberated through my body, I found him smirking at me again. I spat in his face. Oh, hey, Cobras, how you doing? He only laughed as he stood, wiping his cheek with the dark sleeve of his tunic. This is the last time I'll extend my assistance, he said, pausing by the cell door. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, had the Saturday slumber party stream we do last night. And now we're just here reading, so we're having a chill Sunday. Now, did you mean long weekend like you've just had a long weekend, or like do you have a 3-day weekend? Because that's lucky for you. I wish I did. Gotcha. Yeah, long day. All right. Once I leave this cell, my offer is dead. I spat again and he shook his head. I bet you'll be spitting on Death's face when she comes to claim you too. It began to ripple with darkness, his edges blurring into endless night. He could be bluffing, trying to trick me into accepting his offer. Or he might be right. I might be dying. My life depended on it. More than my life depended on my choice. And if Lucian was indeed unable to come, or if he came too late, I was dying. I'd known it for some time now. And Lucian had underestimated my abilities in the past. Had never quite grasped my limitations as a human. He'd sent me to hunt the Suriel with a few knives and a bow. He'd even admitted to hesitating that day, when I had screamed for help. And he might not even know how bad off I was. Might not understand the gravity of an infection like this. He might come a day, an hour, a minute too late. Rasan's moon-white skin began to darken into nothing but shadow. Wait. The darkness consuming him paused. For Tamlin. For Tamlin, I would sell my soul. I would give up everything I had for him to be free. Wait. I repeated. The darkness vanished, leaving Rasan in his solid form as he grinned. Yes? I raised my chin as high as I could manage. Just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks, he purred and knelt before me. 2 teensy tiny weeks with me every month is all I ask. That's like your whole month, dude. That's like so much time. And she doesn't even like you. Like, do you really want to spend all that time with her? You want to like hang out with someone who doesn't even like you? What's your ulterior motive, dude? I don't want to hang out with somebody who hates my guts. You don't even know her. Like, what if you find out she's like super boring and you like hate it? Then are you like, oh, well, I made this deal, so like we're just gonna do it? Like what? I don't understand. I don't understand why he wants this. Anyway. Oh. Well, I guess if I kept reading, I would probably find out. Why? And what are to be the terms? I said, fighting past the dizziness. Ah, he said, adjusting the lapel of his obsidian tunic. If I told you those things, there'd be no fun in it, would there? Oh, I guess he won't tell me then. Gross. I looked at my ruined arm. Lucian might never come. Might decide I wasn't worth risking his life any further for. Not now that he'd been punished for it. And if Amarantha's healers cut off my arm, Nesta would have done the same for me, for Elaine. And Tamlin had done so much for me, for my family. Even if he had lied about the treaty, about sparing me from its terms, he'd still saved my life that day against the Naga, and saved it again by sending me away from the manor. I couldn't think entirely of the enormity of what I was about to give, or else I might refuse again. I met Rasan's gaze. 5 days. You're going to bargain? Rasan laughed under his breath. 10 days. I held his stare with all my strength. A week. Rasan was silent for a long moment, his eyes traveling across my body and my face before he murmured, "A week it is." "Then it's a deal," I said. A metallic taste filled my mouth as much as magic stirred between us. His smile became a bit wild, and before I could brace myself, he grabbed my arm. There was a blinding quick pain, and my scream sounded in my ears as bone and flesh were shattered. Blood rushed out of me, and then... Rasan was still grinning when I opened my eyes. I hadn't any idea how long I'd been unconscious, but my fever was gone, and my head was clear as I sat up. In fact, the mud was gone too. I felt as if I'd just bathed. But then I lifted my left arm. Oh no. What have you done to me? Rasan stood, running a hand through his short, dark hair. It's custom in my court for bargains to be permanently marked upon flesh. Oh, dude, gross. Did you do something terrible? Don't do something terrible. I mean, he's a bad person, so he would, but damn it. You go and make it worse. I rubbed my left forearm and hand, the entirety of which was now covered in swirls and whirls of black ink. Even my fingers weren't spared. And a large eye was tattooed in the center of my palm. It was feline, and its slitted pupil stared right back at me. It was actually kind of a sick tattoo, but if you didn't choose it, that's not cool. Make it go away, I said. And he laughed. You humans are truly grateful creatures, aren't you? From a distance, the tattoo looked like an elbow-length lace glove. But when I held it close to my face, I could detect the intricate depictions of flowers and curves that flowed through to make up a larger pattern. Permanent. Forever. You didn't tell me this would happen. You didn't ask. So how am I to blame? She did ask. She asked what the terms were. You did not disclose this part. He walked to the door but lingered, even as pure night wafted off his shoulders. Unless this lack of gratitude and appreciation is because you fear a certain High Lord's reaction. Tamlin. I could already see his face going pale, his lips becoming thin as the claws came out. I could almost hear the growl he'd emit when he asked me what I had been thinking. I think I'll wait to tell him until the moment's right, though, Rasan said. The gleam in his eyes told me enough. Rasan hadn't done any of this to save me, but rather to hurt Tamlin. And I'd fallen into his trap. Fallen into it worse than the worm had fallen into mine. Rest up, Feyre, Rasan said. He turned into nothing more than living shadow and vanished through a crack in the door. Ugh. I don't like him. I don't like this man. Bad guy. He's a bad guy. I don't think he's redeemable at this point. No. Nope. And clearly that's where we're going, since she's gonna have to spend all this time with him. That, like, the author is going to at some point try to make us not hate this guy. Unless we kill him. So I don't know. But at this exact moment, I hate him. I hate this man. That was chapter 37. So now we're going to go on to chapter 38. Just a brief reminder before we move on, if you're enjoying the stream, you can always donate at the link that gets posted in chat by Nightbot every so often. It just sort of lets me know that you're enjoying it and that you're having a good time. There's no specific incentive for the reading streams. I just do it because I like you guys, but it always just makes me happy and makes me feel good. If you contribute. Thanks, Soap. So chapter 38. I tried not to look at my left arm as I scrubbed at the floors of the hallway. The ink, which in the light was actually a blue so dark it appeared black, was a cloud upon my thoughts. And those were bleak enough even without knowing I'd sold myself to Rhysand. I couldn't look at the eye on my palm. I had an absurd, creeping feeling that it watched me. It probably does. He wants to see you naked. That's my first thought. I'm like, oh, okay, he's attached an eye to her so he can see her nude. Because he seems like a creep like that. I dunked the large brush into the bucket the red-skinned guards had thrown into my arms. I could barely comprehend them through their mouths full of long, yellow teeth. But when they gave me the brush and bucket and shoved me into a long hallway of white marble, I understood. If it's not washed and shining by supper, one of them had said, its teeth clicking as it grinned, we're to tie you to the spit and give you a few good turns over the fire. With that, they left. I had no idea when supper was, and so I frantically began washing. My back already ached like fire, and I hadn't been scrubbing the marble hall for more than 30 minutes, but the water they'd given me was filthy, and the more I scrubbed the floor, the dirtier it became. When I went to the door to ask for a bucket of clean water, I found it locked. There would be no help. An impossible task. A task to torment me. The spit. Perhaps that was the source of the constant screaming in the dungeons. Would a few turns on the spit melt all the flesh from me? Or just burn me badly enough to force me into another bargain with Rhysand? I cursed as I scrubbed harder, the coarse bristles of the brush crinkling and whispering against the tiles. A rainbow of brown was left in their wake, and I growled as I dunked the brush again. Filthy water came out with it, dripping all over the floor. trail of brown muck grew with each sweep. Breathing quickly, I hurled the brush to the ground and covered my face with my wet hands. I lowered my left hand again when I realized the eye was pressed against my cheek. I gulped down steadying gasps of air. There had to be a rational way to do this. There had to be some old wives' trick. The spit. Tied to a spit like a roast pig. Ugh. I grabbed the brush from where it had bounced away and scrubbed at the floor until my hands throbbed. It looked like someone had spilled mud all over the place. The dirt was actually turning into mud the harder I scrubbed it. I'd probably wail and beg for mercy when they roasted me on that spit. There had been red lines covering Claire's naked body. What instrument of torture had they come from? My hands trembled and I set down the brush. I could take down a giant worm, but washing a floor, that was the impossible task. A door clicked open somewhere down the hall, and I shot to my feet. An auburn head peered at me. I sagged with relief. Lucian. Not Lucian. The face that turned toward me was female, and unmasked. She looked perhaps a bit older than Amarantha, but her porcelain skin was exquisitely colored, graced with the faintest blush of rose along her cheeks. Had the red hair not been indication enough, when her russet eyes met mine, I knew who she was. I bowed my head to the lady of the autumn court, and she inclined her chin slightly. I suppose that was honor enough. For giving her your name in place of my son's life. Rosette! She said, her voice as sweet as sun-warmed apples. Oh, she's a pumpkin spice girl. She must have been in the crowd that day. She pointed at the bucket with a long, slender hand. My debt is paid. She disappeared through the door she'd opened, and I could have sworn I smelled roasting chestnuts and crackling fires in her wake. It was only after the door shut that I realized I should have thanked her, and only after I looked in my bucket that I realized I'd been hiding my left arm behind my back. I knelt beside the bucket and dipped my fingers into the water. They came out clean. I shuddered, allowing myself a moment to slump over my knees before I dumped some of the water onto the floor and watched it wash away the muck. To the chagrin of the guards, I had completed their impossible task. But the next day, they smiled at me as they shoved me into a massive, dark bedroom, lit only by a few candles, and pointed to the looming fireplace. I know, Katrisha, right? It's really not equivalent. It's like, hey, here's some water. Like, you couldn't have used your magic to clean the room? That would have been more helpful. Could have even done something even bigger than that, but at least that would have been, like, the maximum help you can do for this particular situation. Giving her clean water is not an equivalent. I'm sorry, it's just not good. Could have done better. Servant spilled lentils in the ash, one of the guards grunted, tossing me a wooden bucket. Clean it up before the occupant returns, or he'll peel off your skin in strips. Oh. Slammed door, the click of a lock, and I was alone. Sorting lentils from ash and embers. Ridiculous, wasteful, and... I approached the darkened fireplace and cringed. Impossible. Wait, so... They said clean it up. You can't just, like, clean out the fireplace. You have to pick them out. Anyway. I cast a glance around the bedroom. No windows, no exits save the one I'd just been chucked through. The bed was enormous and neatly made, its black sheets of silk. There was nothing else in the room beyond basic furniture, not even discarded clothes or books or weapons, as if its occupant never slept here. I knelt before the fireplace and calmed my breathing. I had keen eyes, I reminded myself. I could spot rabbits hiding in the underbrush and track most things that wanted to remain unseen. Spotting the lentils couldn't be that hard. Sighing, I crawled farther into the fireplace and began. Yeah, I still don't understand this task. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Like, you can't just scrape everything out of there. It's a fire pit. You can't just set it all on fire and burn it and then scrape it out. I don't know. Maybe lentils don't burn. I don't know. I have no idea. This seems silly. I was wrong. 2 hours later, my eyes were burning and aching. And even though I combed through every inch of that fireplace, there were always more lentils. More and more that I'd somehow not spotted. The guards had never said when the owner of this room would return, and so every tick of the clock on the mantel became a death knell. Every footstep outside the door causing me to reach for the iron poker leaning against the hearth wall. Amarantha had never said anything about not fighting back, never specified that I wasn't allowed to defend myself. At least I'd go down swinging. I picked through the ashes again and again. My hands were now black and stained, my clothes covered in soot. Surely there couldn't be any more. Surely. The lock clicked, and I lunged for the poker as I shot to my feet. My back to the hearth and the iron rod hidden behind me. Darkness entered the room, guttering the candles with a snow-kissed breeze. I gripped the poker harder, pressing against the stone of the fireplace, even as that darkness settled on the bed and took a familiar form. As wonderful as it is... Sorry, there's a new person in the room. As wonderful as it is to see you, Feyre, darling, Rasand said, and I knew it was his room too. Sprawled on the bed, his head propped up by a hand. Do I want to know why you're digging through my fireplace? I bent my knees slightly, preparing to run, to duck, to do anything to get to the door that felt far, far away. They said I had to clean out lentils from the ashes or you'd rip my skin off. Did they now? A feline smile. Do I have you to thank for this idea? I hissed. He wasn't allowed to kill me. Not with my bargain with Amarantha, but there were other ways to hurt me. Oh no, he drawled. No one's learning of our little bargain yet. And you've managed to keep it quiet. Shame riding you a bit hard. I clenched my jaw and pointed to the fireplace with one hand, still keeping the poker tucked behind me. Is this clean enough for you? Why were there lentils in my fireplace to begin with? I gave him a flat look. One of your mistress's household chores, I suppose. He said, examining his nails. Apparently, she and her cronies think I'll find some sport with you. My mouth dried up. Or it's a test for you, I managed to get out. You said you bet on me during my first task. She didn't seem pleased about it. And what could Amarantha possibly have to test me about? I didn't balk from that violet stare. Amarantha's whore, Lucian had once called him. You lied to her. About Claire. You knew very well what I looked like. Rasand sat up in a fluid movement and braced his forearms on his thighs. Such grace contained in such a powerful form. I was slaughtering on the battlefield before you were even born, he'd once said to Lucian. I didn't doubt it. Amarantha plays her games, he said simply. And
and I play mine. It gets rather boring down here, day after day.
She let you out for fire night, and you somehow got out to put that head in the garden.
She asked me to put that head in the garden. And as for fire night,
He looked me up and down.
I had my reasons to be out then. Do not think, Feyre, that it did not cost me.
He smiled again, and it didn't meet his eyes.
Are you going to put down that poker? Or can I expect you to start swinging soon?
I swallowed my curse and brought it out, but didn't put it down.
A valiant effort, but useless,
He said. True. So true. When he didn't even need to take his hands out of his pockets to grip Lucian's mind. How is it that you have such power still and the others don't? I thought she robbed all of you of your abilities. He lifted a groomed, dark brow.
Oh, she took my powers. This,
A caress of talons against my mind. I jerked back a step, slamming into the fireplace. The pressure on my mind vanished.
this is just the remnant. Scraps I get to play with. Your Tamlin has brute strength and shape-shifting. My arsenal is a far deadlier assortment.
I knew he wasn't bluffing. Not when I'd felt those talons in my mind. So you can't shapeshift. It's not some High Lord specialty.
Oh, all the High Lords can. Each of us has a beast roaming beneath our skin, roaring to get out. While your Tamlin prefers fur, I find wings and talons to be more entertaining.
A lick of cold kissed down my spine. Can you shift now? Or did she take that too?
So many questions from a little human.
But the darkness that hovered around him began to writhe and twist and flare as he rose to his feet. I blinked, and it was done. I lifted the iron poker just a little bit.
Not a full shift, you see,
Rasan said, clicking the black, razor-sharp talons that had replaced his fingers. Below the knee, darkness stained his skin, but talons also gleamed in lieu of toes.
I don't particularly like yielding wholly to my baser side.
Indeed, it was still Rasan's face, his powerful male body, but flaring out behind him were massive, black, membranous wings like a bat's, like the Ators. He tucked them in neatly behind him, but the single claw at the apex of each peeked over his broad shoulders. Horrific. Stunning. The face of 1,000 nightmares and dreams. That again useless part of me stirred at the sight. The way the candlelight shone through the wings, illuminating the veins. The way it bounced off his talons. Rasan rolled his neck, and it all vanished in a flash. The wings, the talons, the feet, leaving only the male behind, well-dressed and unruffled.
No attempts at flattery?
I had made a very, very big mistake in offering my life to him. But I said, "You have a high enough opinion of yourself already. I doubt the flattery of a little human matters much to you." He let out a low laugh that slid along my bones, warming my blood.
I can't decide whether I should consider you admirable or very stupid for being so bold with a High Lord.
Only around him did I have trouble keeping my mouth shut, it seemed. So I dared to ask, "Do you know the answer to the riddle?" He crossed his arms.
Cheating, are you?
She never said I couldn't ask for help.
But after she had you beaten to hell, she ordered us not to help you.
I waited, but he shook his head.
Even if I felt like helping you, I couldn't. She gives the order, and we all bow to it.
He picked a fleck of dust off his black jacket.
It's a good thing she likes me, isn't it?
I opened my mouth to press him, to beg him. If it meant instantaneous freedom...
Don't waste your breath, he said. I can't tell you. No one here can. If she ordered us all to stop breathing, we would have to obey that too.
He frowned at me and snapped his fingers. The soot, the dirt, the ash vanished off my skin, leaving me as clean as if I'd bathed.
There. A gift for having the balls to even ask.
I gave him a flat stare, but he motioned to the hearth. It was spotless. My bucket was filled with lentils. The door swung open of its own accord, revealing the guards who dragged me here. Rasan waved a lazy hand at them.
She accomplished her task. Take her back.
They grabbed for me, but he bared his teeth in a smile that was anything but friendly, and they halted.
No more household chores. No more tasks,
he said, his voice an erotic caress.
Oh.
Their yellow eyes went glazed and dull, their sharp teeth gleaming as their mouths slackened.
Tell the others too. Stay out of her cell and don't touch her. If you do, you're to take your own daggers and gut yourselves. Understood?
Dazed, numb nods. Then they blinked and straightened. I hid my trembling. Glamour, mind control. Whatever it was he had done, it worked. They beckoned, but didn't dare touch me. Rasan smiled at me.
You're welcome,
he purred as I walked out. I suppose that was something approaching kind. But still fuck that guy? It's manipulative. Manipulative as fuck, and I don't like it. And that was chapter 38. Yeah, we still got time here. This next chapter, though, this is a meaty one. So we're going in here at chapter 39, and I think it'll have to be the last one for the day. And I want to get right into it, too. From that point on, each morning and evening, a fresh, hot meal appeared in my cell. I gobbled it down, but cursed Rasan's name anyway. Stuck in the cell, I had nothing to do but ponder Amarantha's riddle. Usually only to wind up with a pounding headache. I recited it again and again and again, but to no avail. Days passed, and I didn't see Lucian or Tamlin, and Rasan never came to taunt me. I was alone, utterly alone, locked in silence. Though the screaming in the dungeons still continued day and night. When that screaming became too unbearable and I couldn't shut it out, I would look at the eye tattooed on my palm. I wondered if he'd done it to quietly remind me of Jurian. A cruel, petty slap to the face, indicating that perhaps I was well on my way to belonging to him, just as the ancient warrior now belonged to Amarantha. Every once in a while, I'd say a few words to the tattoo, and curse myself for a fool. Or curse Rasan. But I could have sworn that as I dozed off one night, it blinked. If I was counting the schedule of my meals correctly, about 4 days after I'd seen Rasan in his room, 2 high fae females arrived in my cell. They appeared through the cracks from slivers of darkness, just as Rasan had. But while he'd solidified into a tangible form, these fairies remained mostly made of shadow, their features barely discernible, save for their loose flowing cobweb gowns. They remained silent when they reached for me. I didn't fight them. There was nothing to fight them with. And nowhere to run. The hands they clasped around my forearms were cool but solid, as if the shadows were a coating, a second skin. They had to have been sent by Rassand, some servants of his from the night court. They could have been mutes for all they said to me as they pressed close to my body, and we physically stepped through the closed door, as if it wasn't even there. As if I had become a shadow too. My knees buckled at the sensation, like spiders crawling down my spine, my arms, as we walked through the dark, shrieking dungeons. None of the guards stopped us. They didn't even look in our direction. We were glamored then, no more than flickering darkness to the passing eye. The fairies brought me up through the dusty stairwells and down forgotten halls until we reached a nondescript room where they stripped me naked, bathed me roughly, and then, to my horror, began to paint my body. Their brushes were unbearably cold and ticklish, and their shadowy grips were firm when I wriggled. Things only worsened when they painted more intimate parts of me, and it was an effort to keep from kicking one of them in the face. They offered no explanation for why, no hint of whether this was another torment sent by Amarantha. Even if I fled, there was nowhere to escape to, not without damning Tamlin further. So I stopped demanding answers, stopped fighting back, and let them finish. Don't like that. From the neck up, I was regal. My face was adorned with cosmetics, rouge on my lips, a smearing of gold dust on my eyelids, kohl lining my eyes, and my hair was coiled around a small, golden diadem embedded with lapis lazuli. Lazuli? But from the neck down, I was a heathen god's plaything. Oh no. They continued the pattern of the tattoo on my arm, and once the blue-black paint had dried, they placed on me a gauzy white dress. I don't understand what's happening. I don't like it. I don't like it. Just because there seems to be a lack of explanation or consent here, and it feels like she's being tricked into something, and I don't like it. If you could call it a dress. It was little more than 2 long shafts of gossamer, just wide enough to cover my breasts, pinned at each shoulder with gold brooches. Sections flowed down to a jeweled belt slung low across my hips, but they joined into a single piece of fabric that hung between my legs and to the floor. It barely covered me, and from the cold air on my skin, I knew that most of my backside was left exposed. The cold breeze caressing my bare skin was enough to kindle my rage. The two high fae ignored my demands to be clothed in something else. Their impossibly shadowed faces veiled from me, but held my arms firm when I tried to rip the shift off.
I wouldn't do that,
a deep, lilting voice said from the doorway. Rassand was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed over his chest. I should have known it was his doing. Should have known from the matching designs all over my body. Our bargain hasn't started yet, I snapped. The instincts that had once told me to be quiet around Tam and Lucian utterly failed me when Rassand was near. Guys, I'm so mad right now.
But I need an escort for the party.
You can't just fucking do that, dude. That's not the deal. Like, the deal sucks anyway and should not be something that is upheld, but fuck you. So mad. I'm so mad. His violet eyes glittered with stars.
And when I thought of you squatting in that cell all night alone...
He waved a hand, and the fairy servants vanished to the door behind him. I flinched as they walked through the wood. no doubt an ability everyone in the Night Court possessed, and Rasan chuckled.
You look just as I hoped you would.
Tamlin better fucking make him pay for this. This is fucking ridiculous. I am so angry. Just so mad right now. It's not okay. Ow. Shit. From the cobwebs of my memory, I recalled similar words Tamlin had once whispered into my ear. Is this necessary? I said, gesturing to the paint and clothing.
Of course, he said coolly. How else would I know if anyone touches you?
Just don't though, dude. None of your fucking business. He approached, and I braced myself as he ran a finger along my shoulder, smearing the paint. As soon as his finger left my skin, the paint fixed itself, returning the design to its original form.
The dress itself won't mar it, and neither will your movements, he said,
his face close to mine. His teeth were far too near to my throat.
And I'll remember precisely where my hands have been. But if anyone else touches you, let's say a certain High Lord who enjoys springtime, I'll know.
Fuck off! He flicked my nose.
And Farah?
He added, his voice a caressing murmur.
I don't like my belongings tampered with.
I'm so... Go die. Just go die. I don't know what else to say. I hate him. I'm so mad. Oh. Ice wrapped around my stomach. He owned me for a week every month. Apparently, he thought that extended to the rest of my life, too.
Come,
Rasan said, beckoning with a hand.
We're already late.
Stupid, awful man. Stupid, awful, terrible badman. I hate him. We walked through the halls. The sounds of merriment rose ahead of us, and my face burned as I silently bemoaned the too sheer fabric of my dress. Beneath it, my breasts were visible to everyone, the paint hardly leaving anything to the imagination, and the cold cave air raised goosebumps on my skin. With my legs, sides, and most of my stomach exposed, save for the slender shafts of fabric, I had to clench my teeth to keep them from chattering. Oh my god, I'm so upset. My bare feet were half frozen, and I hoped that wherever we were going would have a giant fire. Queer, off-kilter music brayed through two stone doors that I immediately recognized. The throne room. No, any place but here. Fairies and high fae gawked as we passed through the entrance. Some bowed to Rasan while others gaped. I spied several of Lucian's older brothers gathered just inside the doors. The smiles they gave me were nothing short of vulpine. Rasan didn't touch me, but he walked close enough for it to be obvious that I was with him, that I belonged to him. I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd attached a collar and leash around my neck. Maybe he would at some point, now that I was bound to him, the bargain marked on my flesh. Whispers snaked under the shouts of celebrating, and even the music quieted as the crowd parted and made a path for us to Amarantha's dais. I lifted my chin, the weight of the crown digging into my skull. I'd beaten her first task. I'd beaten her menial chores. I could keep my head high. Tamlin was seated beside her on that same throne, in his usual clothing, no weapons sheathed anywhere on him. Rasand had said that he wanted to tell him at the right moment, that he'd wanted to hurt Talon by revealing the bargain I'd made. Prick. Scheming, wretched prick.
Merry Midsummer,
Rasand said, bowing to Amarantha. She wore a rich gown of lavender and orchid purple. Surprisingly modest. I was a savage before her cultivated beauty. What have you done with my captive? She said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Tamlin's face was like stone save for the white-knuckled grip on the arms of his throne. No claws. He was able to keep that sign of his temper at bay, at least. I'd done such a foolish thing in binding myself to Rasand. Rasand with the wings and talons lurking behind that beautiful, flawless surface. Rasand, who could shatter minds. I did it for you, I wanted to shout.
We made a bargain,
Rasand said. I flinched as he brushed a stray lock of my hair from my face. He ran his fingers down my cheek, a gentle caress. The throne room was all too quiet as he spoke his next words to Tamlin.
1 week with me at the Night Court every month in exchange for my healing services after her first task.
He raised my left arm to reveal the tattoo, whose ink didn't shine as much as the paint on my body.
For the rest of her life,
he added casually, but his eyes were now upon Amarantha. The fairy queen straightened a little bit. Even Durian's eye seemed fixed on me, on Rasand. For the rest of my life. He said it as if it were going to be a long, long while. He thought I was going to beat her tasks. I stared at his profile, at the elegant nose and sensuous lips. Games. Rasand liked to play games, and it seemed I was now to be a key player in whatever this one was. Enjoy my party, was Amarantha's only reply as she toyed with the bone at the end of her necklace. Dismissed, Rasand had a hand on my back to steer us away, to turn me from Tamlin, who still gripped the throne. The crown kept a good distance, and I couldn't acknowledge any of them. Out of fear, I might have to look at Tamlin again, or might spy Lucian, glimpse the expression on his face when he beheld me. I kept my chin up. I wouldn't let the others notice that weakness. Wouldn't let them know how much it killed me to be so exposed to them, to have Rasand's symbols painted over nearly every inch of my skin, to have Tamlin see me so debased. Rasand stopped before a table laden with exquisite foods. The high fae around it quickly cleared away. If they were any other members of the Night Court present, they didn't ripple with darkness the way Rasand and his servants did. Didn't dare approach him. The music grew loud enough to suggest they was probably dancing somewhere in the room.
Wine,
he said, offering me a goblet. Alice's first rule. I shook my head. He smiled and extended the goblet again. Drink.
You'll need it.
No. God, no. No, 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 no. Drink, my mind echoed, and my fingers stirred, moving toward the goblet. No. No, Alice said not to drink the wine here. Wine was different from that joyous, freeing solstice wine. No, I said, and some fairies who were watching us from a safe distance chuckled. Drink, he said, and my traitorous fingers latched onto the goblet. Oh my god. Guys, this is it. This is it. This is it. This is the bad one. This is the bad part. This is bad. This is very bad. I'm very unhappy. Oh boy. Great big old red flag trigger warning right here to just... This is clearly going in like an assaulty, abusey direction, and if you can't stomach it, please, you every right to go where you gotta go, because man, no. I awoke in my cell, still clad in that handkerchief he called a dress. Everything was spinning so badly that I barely made it to the corner before I vomited, again and again. When I'd emptied my stomach, I crawled to the opposite corner of the cell and collapsed. Sleep came fitfully as the world continued to twirl violently around me. I was tied to a spinning wheel, going around and around and around. Needless to say, I was sick a fair amount that day. I'd just finished picking at the hot dinner that had appeared moments before when the door creaked and a golden fox face appeared, along with a narrowed metal eye. "Shit," said Lucian. "It's freezing in here." It was, but I was too nauseated to notice. Keeping my head up was an effort, let alone keeping the food down. He unclasped his cloak and set it around my shoulders. Its heavy warmth leaked into me. "Look at all this," he said, staring at the paint on me. Thankfully, it was all intact, save for a few places at my waist. Bastard. What happened? I got out, even though I wasn't sure I truly wanted the answer. My memory was a dark blur of wild music. Lucian drew back. "I don't think you want to know." I studied the few smudges on my waist. Marks that looked like hands had held me. "Who did that to me?" I asked quietly, my eyes tracing the arc of the spoiled paint. "Who do you think?" My heart clenched and I looked at the floor. Did Tamlin see it?" Lucian nodded. "Reese was only doing it to get a rise out of him." "Did it work?" I still couldn't look Lucian in the face. I knew, at least, that I hadn't been violated beyond touching my sides. The paint told me that much. "Doesn't matter, that's still terrible." "No," Lucian said, and I smiled grimly. What was I doing the whole time? So much for Alice's warning. Lucian let out a sharp breath, running a hand through his red hair. "No." "He had you dance for him most of the night. And when you weren't dancing, you were sitting in his lap." "What kind of dancing?" I pushed. "Not the kind you were doing with Tamlin on Solstice," Lucian said, and my face heated. From the murkiness of my memories of last night, I recalled the closeness of a certain pair of violet eyes. Eyes that sparkled with mischief as they beheld me. In front of everyone? "Yes," Lucian replied, more gently than I had heard him speak to me before. I stiffened. I didn't want his pity. He sighed and grabbed my left arm, examining the tattoo. "What were you thinking? Didn't you know I'd come as soon as I could?" I yanked my arm from him. "I was dying. I had a fever. I was barely able to keep conscious. How was I supposed to know you'd come, that you even understood how quickly humans can die of that sort of thing? You told me you hesitated that time with the Naga. I swore an oath to Tamlin. I had no other choice. You think I'm going to trust you after everything you said to me at the manor? I risked my neck for you during your task. Was that not enough? His metal eye whirred softly. You offered up your name for me. After all that I said to you, all I did, you still offered up your name. Didn't you realize I would help you after that, oath or no oath? I hadn't realized it would mean anything to him at all. I had no other choice, I said again, breathing hard. Don't you understand what Reese is? I do, I barked, then sighed. I do, I repeated, and glared at the eye in my palm. It's done with. So you needn't hold to whatever oath you swore to Tamlin to protect me, or feel like you owe me anything for saving you from Amarantha. I would have done it just to wipe the smirk off your brothers' faces. Lucian clicked his tongue, but his remaining russet eye shone. I'm glad to see you didn't sell your lively human spirit or stubbornness to Reese. Just a week of my life every month. I hope he gets her on her period week. So he has to deal with it. And that's not a dig at women time. I just know if it were me, he'd have to deal with some shit. And he'd see me at my ugliest, and I wouldn't care. I don't know, I just am really mad. Yes, well, we'll see about that when the time comes, he growled, that metal eye flicking to the door. He stood. I should go. The rotation's about to shift. He made it a step before I said, I'm sorry that she still punished you for helping me during my task. I heard. My throat tightened. I heard what she made Tamlin do to you. He shrugged. But I added, thank you. For helping me, I mean. He walked to the door, and for the first time I noticed how stiffly he moved. It's why I couldn't come sooner, he said, his throat bobbing. She used our powers to keep my back. I think this is meant to say to keep me back from healing. Oh, to keep my back from healing. I understand now. To keep my back from healing. I haven't been able to move until today. Breathing became a little difficult. Here, I said, removing his cloak and standing to hand it to him. The sudden cold sent goose flesh rippling over me. Keep it. I swiped it off a dozing guard on my way in here. In the dim light, the embroidered symbol of a sleeping dragon glimmered. Amarantha's coat of arms. I grimaced, but shrugged into it. Besides, Lucian added with a smirk, I've seen enough of you through that gown to last a lifetime. I flushed as he opened the door. Wait, I said. Is Tamlin all right? I mean, that spell Amarantha has him under to make him so silent. There's no spell. Hasn't it occurred to you that Tamlin is keeping quiet to avoid telling Amarantha which form of your torment affects him most? No, it hadn't. He's playing a dangerous game, though, Lucian said, slipping out the door. We all are. The next night, I was again washed, painted, and brought to that miserable throne room. Not a ball this time, just some evening entertainment. Which, it turned out, was me. After I drank the wine, though, I was mercifully unaware of what was happening. Night after night, I was dressed in the same way and made to accompany Rasan to the throne room. Thus, I became Rasan's plaything, the harlot of Amarantha's whore. I woke with vague shards of memories of dancing between Rasan's legs as he sat in a chair and laughed. Of his hands stained blue from the places they touched on my waist, my arms. But somehow never more than that. He had me dance until I was sick, and once I was done retching, told me to begin dancing again. I awoke ill and exhausted each morning, and though Rasan's order to the guards had indeed held, the nightly activities left me thoroughly drained. I spent my days sleeping off the fairy wine, dozing to escape the humiliation I endured. When I could, I contemplated Amarantha's riddle, turning over every word to no avail. And when I again entered that throne room, I was allowed only a glimpse of Tamlin before the drug of the wine took hold. But every time, every night, just for that one glance, I didn't hide the love and the pain that welled in my eyes when they met his. Oh God. It's happening. Why? Oh, it's awful. I had finished being painted and dressed, my gossamer gown a shade of blood orange that night, when Rasan entered the room. The shadow maids, as usual, walked through the walls and vanished, but rather than beckon me to come with him, Rasan closed the door.
Your second trial is tomorrow night, he said neutrally.
The gold and silver thread in his black tunic shone in the candlelight. He never wore another color. It was like a stone to the head. I'd lost count of the days. So?
It could be your last, he said,
and leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. If you're taunting me into playing another game of yours, you're wasting your breath.
I hate this. Aren't you going to beg me to give you a night with your beloved?
I'll have that night, and all the ones after when I break her final task. Rasan shrugged, then flashed a grin as he pushed off the door and stepped toward me.
I wonder if you were this prickly with Tamlin when you were his captive.
He never treated me like a captive, or a slave.
No. And how could he? Not with the shame of his father and brother's brutality always weighing on him. The poor, noble beast. But perhaps if he'd bothered to learn a thing or two about cruelty, about what it means to be a true High Lord, it would have kept the Spring Court from falling.
Your court fell too. Sadness flickered in those violet eyes. I wouldn't have noticed it had I not felt it deep inside me. My gaze drifted to the eye etched in my palm. What manner of tattoo exactly had he given me? But instead, I asked, when you were roaming freely on Fire Night, at the Rite, you said it cost you. Were you one of the High Lords that sold allegiance to Amarantha in exchange for not being forced to live down here? Whatever sadness had been in his eyes vanished. Only cold, glittering calm remained. I could have sworn a shadow of mighty wings stained the wall behind him.
What I do, or what I have done for my court, is none of your concern.
And what has she been doing for the past 49 years? Holding court and torturing everyone as she pleases? To what end? Tell me about the threat she poses to the human world, I wanted to beg. Tell me what all of this means. Why so many awful things had to happen.
The Lady of the Mountain needs no excuses for her actions. But the festivities await.
He gestured to the door behind him. I knew I was on dangerous ground, but I didn't care. What do you want with me, beyond taunting Tamlin?
Taunting him is my greatest pleasure,
He said with a mock bow.
And as for your question, why does any male need a reason to enjoy the presence of a female?
Yuck. You saved my life.
And through your life, I saved Tamlin's.
Why? He winked, smoothing his blue-black hair.
That, Feyre, is the real question, isn't it?
With that, he led me from the room. We reached the throne room, and I braced myself to be drugged and disgraced again. But it was Rhysand the crowd looked at. Rhysand, whom Lucian's brothers monitored. Amarantha's clear voice rang out over the music, summoning him. He paused, glancing at Lucian's brothers stalking toward us, their attention pinned on me. Eager, hungry, wicked. I opened my mouth, not too proud to ask Rhysand not to leave me alone with them while he dealt with Amarantha. But he put a hand on my back and nudged me along.
Just stay close and keep your mouth shut,
he murmured in my ear as he led me by the arm. The crowd parted as if we were on fire, revealing all too soon what was before us. Not us, I amended, but Rhysand. A brown-skinned, high-fae male was sobbing on the floor before the dais. Amarantha was smiling at him like a snake, so intently that she didn't even spare me a glance. Beside her, Tamlin remained utterly impassive, a beast without claws. Rhysand flicked his eyes to me, a silent command to stay at the edge of the crowd. I obeyed, and when I lifted my attention to Tamlin, waited for him to look, just look at me. He did not. His focus wholly on the queen, on the male before her. Point taken. Amarantha caressed her ring, watching every moment that Rhysand made as he approached. Movement as these, anyway. The summer lordling, she said of the male cowering at her feet, tried to escape through the exit to the spring courtlands. I want to know why. There was a tall, handsome, high-fae male standing at the crowd's edge. His hair near white, eyes of crushing crystal blue, his skin of richest mahogany. But his mouth was drawn as his attention darted between Amarantha and Rhysand. I'd seen him before, during that first task. The High Lord of the Summer Court. Before, he'd been shining, almost leaking golden light. Now he was muted, drab, as if Amarantha had leached every drop of power from him while she interrogated his subject. Anyway, Rhysand slid his hands into his pockets and sauntered closer to the male on the ground. The summer fairy cringed, its face shining with tears. She said it again, drink. My own bowels turned watery with fear and shame as he, oh my god, poor guy, as he wet himself at the sight of Rhysand. Oh no, no. Please, he gasped out. The crowd was breathless, too silent. His back to me, Rhysand's shoulders were loose, not a stitch of clothing out of place. But I knew his talons had latched onto the fairy's mind the moment the male stopped shaking on the ground. The High Lord of Summer had gone still too. And it was pain, real pain and fear that shone in those stunning blue eyes. Summer was one of the courts that had rebelled, I remembered. So this was a new, untested High Lord who had not yet had to make choices that cost him lives. After a moment of silence, Rasan looked at Amarantha. He wanted to escape.
He wanted to escape. To get to the spring court, cross the wall, and flee south into human territory. He had no accomplices, no motive beyond his own pathetic cowardice.
He jerked his chin toward the puddle of piss beneath the mail. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw the Summer High Lord sag a bit. Enough to make me wonder what sort of choice Rhys had made in that moment he'd taken to search the male's mind. But Amarantha rolled her eyes and slouched in her throne. Shatter him, Rasan. She flicked a hand at the High Lord of the Summer Court. You may do what you want with the body afterwards. The High Lord of the Summer Court bowed, as if he'd been given a gift, and looked to his subject, who had gone still and calm on the floor, hugging his knees. The male fairy was ready, relieved. Rhys slipped a hand out of his pocket, and it dangled at his side. I could have sworn phantom talons flickered there as his fingers curled slightly. I'm growing bored, Rasan, Amarantha said with a sigh, again fiddling with that bone. She hadn't looked at me once, too focused on her current prey. You alright? She's fine. She's knocked over a box. Rasan's fingers curled into a fist. The fairy male's eyes went wide, then glazed as he slumped to the side in the puddle of his own waste. Oh, this guy. Blood leaked from his nose, from his ears, pooling on the floor. That fast, that easily, that irrevocably, he was dead. I said shatter his mind, not his brain, Amarantha snapped. The crowd murmured around me, stirring. I wanted nothing more than to fade back into it, to crawl back into my cell and burn this from my mind. Tamlin hadn't flinched, not a muscle. What horrors had he witnessed in his long life if this hadn't broken that distant expression, that control? Rasan shrugged, his hand sliding back into his pocket.
Apologies, my queen.
He turned away without being dismissed, and didn't look at me as he strode for the back of the throne room. I fell into step beside him, reining in my trembling, trying not to think about the body sprawled behind us, or about Claire, still nailed to the wall. The crowd stayed far, far back as we walked through it. Whore, some of them softly hissed at him, out of her earshot.
Amarantha's whore.
But many more offered tentative, appreciative smiles and words.
Good that you killed him. Good that you killed the traitor.
Rasan didn't deign to acknowledge any of them. His shoulders still loose, his footsteps unhurried. I wondered whether anyone but he and the High Lord of the Summer Court knew that the killing had been a mercy. I was willing to bet that there had been others involved in that escape plan, perhaps even the High Lord of the Summer Court himself. But maybe keeping those secrets had only been done in aid of whatever games Rasan liked to play. Maybe sparing that fairy male by killing him swiftly rather than shattering his mind and leaving him a drooling husk had been another calculated move, too. He didn't pause once on that long trek across the throne room. But when we reached the food and wine at the back of the room, he handed me a goblet and downed one alongside me. He didn't say anything before the wine swept me into oblivion. No! I hate it! Oh, I hated it so much. Oh. Ay. That was bad. But I think we're through it, and next week we will get on to her next task. Next week on Wednesday, what am I talking about? Next reading, we'll get on to her next task. Hopefully we find a way out of this terrible abusive situation that's upsetting me so much. Yeah, I'm left thoroughly unhappy after this one. Just real mad, real unhappy. Yeah, he showed that little bit of mercy there at the end. Still doesn't redeem him. Good for him. Whatever. No forgiveness. No forgiveness for this. No. I think we all need to agree here and now that yeah, there's no forgiveness for this. Rasand is cancelled. We've canceled Rasand. He's done. Thoroughly, completely canceled. I can't. Yep. Upsetting. Yep. He's done. Not that he ever was like, oh, I love him. No, he's done. And yeah. But like I can just tell though, like he's gonna become like a thing. We're gonna have to try to like the author's gonna want us to like him later, I can tell. She's gonna try to redeem him, and I don't know. I don't know if there's a big enough save the cat moment for this. Yes, he's a badman. Okay, all right. So yeah, so that's it for reading. We will be reading again on Wednesday, as usual time, 7 p.m. Hopefully I won't be quite as tired. Don't forget about our Saturday streams. Those are going to be really fun. We had a really great time last night. I'm sure next week's going to be great too. And of course, keep an eye on those live notifications because I will be trying to do other streams just whenever I've got a minute and just pop in and just hang out and chill. So, I mean, we've got Wednesday, we've got Saturday, Sunday that are scheduled, and then I might pop in and out other times. So, yeah. Oh, so thank you. Yes, I agree. Let us forget this gross jerk. Let's forget him. All right, everybody. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for staying through that with me. I appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon. Bye.